So, Gilda, what style drag do you do?
Yes, I am. It's funny because I like when people talk to me about it, they tell me like my style of drag is very specific, but like I think
You
it's
don't think it is?
I don't, which is funny because like I sing live and I sing opera and musical theater and jazz and like some pop music. And I lip sync and I try to always lip sync songs that like really mean something to me.
Yeah.
So like you'll find me all over the spectrum. Like I'll be doing like modern songs that are really sexy and that make me feel like really in my body, and I'll be doing like 80s songs about like heartbreak or romance or like doing drugs. I think they're fun, and then I'll like do a weird musical theater song about like lesbians fucking in the 1920s. You know what I mean?
I can relate to that.
Yeah. But like the visual is I think pretty consistent.
Yeah.
I the references I'm pulling. You know, my name is Gilda Wabbit, so I'm pulling from Gilda, the Rita Hayworth movie. I'm pulling from Jessica Rabbit. I'm pulling from Looney Tunes, Gilda Wabbit, Gilda Wabbit. My very first crush in the world was Ariel, the Little Mermaid.
Incredible.
So it's always like red hair. I try to have a very sort of like classic, timeless makeup style and body shape, and like I like to live in this world. This is really funny, and I love talking about this. I live in this world that is sort of vintage, right? But I really don't want to look like Princess Grace Kelly of Monaco. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't want to look like a rich woman from the 50s. Because
you just want to look like a woman from the 50s.
Yeah, but I want to look like specifically like a trashy woman from the 50s. Like someone who was like a carny or a burlesque person or a sex worker.
Love that.
You know what I mean? Like someone who's not afraid to be tacky and ostentatious, because right now we're in this world where we're like celebrating the 50s. You know what I mean? And people love the 50s. We love the past, except who we're celebrating from the past are like
not great.
Rich assholes.
Yeah, literally.
With money. Like people
literally.
like The Great Gatsby. Awful.
Don't get me started.
Awful. Problematic.
Don't get me started.
And people are like, oh, I want to be just like him and like throw parties and be rich and do drugs. And I'm like, fuck, that's stupid. I want to be like the sex worker from the 1950s. Do you know what I mean? I want to like align myself with people who like were
people like you.
And people like me, yes, who were like persecuted and who like didn't have all the resources and were sort of like kept in a place of like you don't have power, and still like empowered themselves within that system.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what was it like growing up in Kentucky as a queer person?
I truly had, I think, a really good experience.
That's wonderful.
And it wasn't without its challenges.
Yeah. Nothing is.
Right. To be fully real with you all, the reason she's in therapy is like freshman year of college. She was like, oh, I want to commit to no longer being here. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And that was because of growing up queer and growing up in the church. But like, I think that nonetheless, a lot of people treated me very well.
That's great.
And that's part of why I came back to Kentucky. Like I remember the very first time I was called a faggot ever was in New York City. It was in New York City.
I honestly think that is the reality for a lot of us, cause same.
Yeah. Like when I was here in the South, like truly people were like, "Hey, you're a sinner and you're going to hell," but they were trying to care for me.
They were trying to be nice.
They were
about
trying to love me. Do you know what I mean? And when I went to New York and someone was like, "You're a faggot," that person was not trying to love me. That person was projecting their own insecurities onto me. You know what I mean? And so I have a complicated relationship with the South and like a complicated relationship with religion and my family and whatever. But I know that like Kentucky is no worse and no better than anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so
it's just another place.
It's just another place.
Like when I was growing up in New York, I thought that like I would never, ever, and Nashville's been haunting me my whole life subconsciously. My favorite, one of my favorite bands growing up was a garage punk band from Nashville that broke up 10 years ago, Be Your Own Pet, and that was something that motivated me. I was obsessed with Hee Haw because it was camp. I thought it was absurd, so I was obsessed with that like in high school. So like Nashville's been haunting me for a long time, but I never thought that I would go to Kentucky or Alabama, and let alone go to Kentucky like bi-weekly. I never thought I would go to Indiana.
Right.
Ever.
And here you are.
And there I am going monthly. You know what I mean? So it's very bizarre the way that things played out.
Yeah, I think there's this myth that big cities and places further north are bastions of liberalness and equality and blah, blah, blah. And like truly, I think that myth is propagated so that the people who live in those places don't have to do the work of anti-racism and anti-homophobia and anti-classism because they can blame the South.
They're built in, yeah.
Yeah, and because they can blame the rural poor South, when in fact a lot of people doing the job of teaching us homophobia, misogyny, transphobia are rich people in the cities.
Yep, absolutely, to keep us against the poor people in the South or the underprivileged people.
So they can keep exploiting them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it really bums me out.
Fuck yeah.
I hate that was something that I had to unlearn, but I'm glad that I took the time to unlearn it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because I thought I was going to go, like, Northern California, New York to LA. Like, I thought that was, like, I didn't think that, like, my brain was just like, oh, New York to LA. You know, I was going to go to UCLA and get my psychology degree and my theater minor and call it a goddamn day.
Yes.
No. And I'm glad that wasn't the reality for me because I have grown to really, really love the South.
Yeah.
Nashville is the closest I've ever felt like having a home.
I love that.
Like, growing up, like, traveling so much and doing, you know, photography for the music industry and then doing wrestling for a minute, I bounced around a lot. So, like, Nashville's really the closest thing I've ever felt like to having a home.
I love
that. I'm very, very gracious for the South.
Also, how dare you have lived such a full life already?
I know, it's kind of terrifying.
It's wild.
I've done, like, so much in X amount of years of my life. You know what I mean? So it's just... Yeah. I try my best.
Good for you, bitch.
It feels like I've lived like a dozen different ones, but it's not bad.
That's the point, right?
Think, you know, and I think that's cool. And when I used to work with kids, and when I would ask them what they wanted to be when they grew up, they would tell me like, "Oh, I want to be this. I want to be this." I was like, "You can do all of them.
All of them.
You are not tied to one thing for the rest of your life. You can literally do whatever.
Yeah.
Nothing is unrealistic."
Right. That's what I feel about gender too.
Yeah.
You can be all of the things. Oh
my God, yes.
Let yourself be all of the things. I feel fabulous when I let myself live on the spectrum between faggot, tomboy, and showgirl. Like, I just feel so fulfilled.
I always say, for me, it's like closeted, but not closeted, emo boy from 2005 that's on Warped Tour, clown, pink clown.
I love that.
That's like my, like, the three genders for me.
I love that.
That's exactly how I feel.
Absolutely. I'm always like tomboy in short shorts and a cutoff t-shirt. Weird, queer, artsy faggot, and then full showgirl.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's like the three places I live. Absolutely.
I'm obsessed with that.
Yeah, it's so
I'm glad that you also have that.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that a lot of entertainers have that, and I think that's very interesting, especially a lot of like fluid or trans entertainers.
Yeah. I've lived that today.
Yeah.
I woke up, I mowed my lawn, I smelled of grass. It was fun. I ate a hamburger on my stoop because the weather was nice. And then I came inside and I listened to musical theater and cried. And then I did my makeup and now here I am, full showgirl.
I am obsessed with that. The trajectory
of my Monday, yeah.
I'm obsessed with that. That's how I feel when I go to shows on Sundays. Or the other day, I was going to Indianapolis and I woke up a boy, did the DJ gig, got ready, and Vanity played a giant My Style Barbie and like teased my fucking mullet, and it was precious. And then I became a boy, or I became like a clown boy, and then went straight to Indianapolis, went to my friend's gig that they were what was she doing? Cocktailing in a heeled boot for some reason. And then went to the bar, woke up the next day, and was immediately a clown. You know what I mean? So it's like the trajectory is so fun to me.
Right.
Like,
what a treat we get to experience all of that.
Yeah, honestly.
And if we had just stayed cis, would never have allowed ourselves.
No, absolutely
would
not.
never have allowed ourselves. My cis boyfriend, I talk about that a lot because I have my trans masculine boyfriend, my small boyfriend, and my cis boyfriend, my tall boyfriend. And I talk to him a lot because I really respect him because I think, like, I know you're cisgendered, but I feel safe with you because you're like a cisgendered person who has done the work.
Yeah.
Like you haven't, you have not questioned your gender. You have sat there and like thought about it and wrestled with it. And you maybe don't have an answer, but you're like involved in the process.
Yeah.
Yeah. The negative side effect of identity politics, like identity politics are important, right? So that we can like set ourselves up and learn about ourselves and blah, blah, blah. But the negative side is that I think sometimes identity politics gatekeeps people who would feel comfortable in the community.
Absolutely.
Because they don't hit just the right markers. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean,
absolutely.
That's how I felt for a long time as a trans person. Yeah. Was I was like, oh, I'm not trans enough to call myself trans.
Absolutely, same.
You know what I mean?
I felt like that for years. Actually, when I met Kat Sass.
Yeah.
They really they didn't push me, but seeing them be so unapologetically themselves and going out, like, being sickening and gorgeous and femme, I was just like, I I'm gonna allow myself to come out now. Now, after growing up in Kentucky, you did move to New York City.
Yes, I did.
Did you start drag there? What was your experience with drag there?
Yes. So I moved to New York to be an opera singer.
Okay.
I got my degree. I'd done a few gigs in Kentucky, and I was like, let me go to New York. And I was doing that for about...
the thing, as everybody does.
Right. And I was doing that for about a year, and like there was no money in it. Because in New York, you're like either like a poor opera singer or you are at the Met. There's no middle ground. There's no way to like climb that ladder other than like being poor for a long time. Yeah. And so I would like go and drink my sorrows away at this bar on Tuesday nights because it was like the only time I didn't have rehearsal. And I met this drag queen and she sang live. Her name is Sutton Lee Seymour.
Incredibly.
You all should follow her. She's brilliant. And I was like, is this your job? And I came up to her and asked her that question with like bad eyelashes on and like no makeup but like some smudged out gray shimmery eyeshadow that I got from the drugstore because I was like, I'm doing the thing. And I watched her and I was like, is this your job? And she was like, yeah, it is. I get to decide what songs I sing. I get to dress the way I want and I'm the main character of my show and like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And I just dove right in and a year later, I was doing it full time, and I was like, okay.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was wild.
That is, how lucky are you?
So
because
lucky.
People fucking work their asses off for years. That is incredible.
Yeah, it really felt like right place at the right time. You know what I mean? Like I had all this energy pent up from feeling really boxed in.
So jaded for so long.
Yeah. Because I just felt like I didn't have a place in the music world. I didn't have a place in musical theater. I didn't have a place in opera. And I had all these pent up emotions. And then someone was like, you can do drag. And I was like, oh.
Say less.
I can do drag? Okay, well, I'll do it. And I just hit the ground running. In my very first performance, the reaction from the audience, I was like, oh, I'm understood.
This is...
Like, they understand what I'm selling. And so I was like, this is it. Like I've already put on all the work. Because I've been performing for like a decade. Do you know what I mean?
Same.
Right.
Yeah.
I had all this performance training, and so I was like, now I've got to get my face together. Now I've got to figure out how to style myself.
And that's the thing. It's like, that's the hard thing coming from, like, entertainment background.
Yeah.
You know, because, like, my trajectory was literally dance. I started at 3. I danced for 15 years. And then theater, obviously.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it was theater, dance, color guard, photography, wrestling, cross-dressing.
Yeah.
It was a very interesting trajectory.
But the
all of
wrestling
those
to cross-dressing pipeline is very common.
Very common.
Yeah.
And, you know, so it's very interesting because I feel like all of those things built me to, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, reflecting on it, I'm like, yeah.
Right.
Makes sense. Checks out.
That's like people, when I tell my drag story, a lot of people are like, oh, it's like almost like an overnight success. Like you like were a full-time performer in a year.
You were like, well.
But like all of my years spent not doing drag, but doing other things that serve my drag.
Built you to
that. Was the work to get there.
Absolutely.
You know?
And I always know that coming from entertainment too, I behave differently.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you do. Well, I know that you do it as well because you carry yourself very professionally. You are very much so like... always put together, always professional, always kind, always talking to like every single person in the building, and that's how I was brought up as well.
Yeah, well, it's something that I think speaks to that for me is that I think it is a privilege to do this as a job.
Yeah.
It is a privilege to do this. And so I take it, I try not to take myself seriously. I try to have a good time, but I take the job seriously.
Yeah, absolutely same.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you want to be in the flash in the pan, you can act however the way you want. And you can get a few gigs and you can make some money for a short while.
Yeah.
But if you want to take this, if you think to yourself, like, I'm going to do this for as long as I can do it, you have to really handle yourself in a way where, like, everyone who works with you, and you can't control everyone, but, like, everyone who you work with at least understands that you tried hard.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And whether they believe it or not is up to them.
Right.
And that's something I have a hard time learning.
Right.
But,
we gotta let go of that control.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, being a Virgo sun, Capricorn rising, it's very,
That is a complicated star chart. That is a complicated star chart.
Well, here's the thing is the Virgo and the Capricorn really, really balance themselves out wonderfully. Yeah. Because Capricorn's like Virgo light to me.
Right.
So it's like I'm still hardworking, I'm still motivated, I'm still like very like all of those really lovely traits that come with both of those signs. Mm-hmm. But then I have the Pisces moon and then the Scorpio, Venus, and Mars.
Oh, God.
So it's like I do have a tendency to be very aggressive in the way that I speak and be very like, you know, and the Scorpio does keep me motivated as well, but I'm very like, I'm a workaholic and I'm just like, it makes me fall in love every time I turn around. It's very like, because you have a Pisces moon as well.
Yes.
Give me your full chart. We've already started this.
I'm a Gemini sun, Aquarius rising, Pisces moon. My Venus is in Taurus.
Oh, interesting.
But my Mars is in Aries.
Oh my god.
My South Node is in Cancer, and my North Node is in Capricorn. So I just have, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on here. I think it lends itself really well.
At least you don't have any Leo placements.
No Leo placements.
Because the Gemini and Leo placement, I'm obsessed with because they're so fun. They're just like golden retrievers.
Yeah.
Like Ivy St. James has Gemini and Leo placements. And then Aura Tannen also has Gemini and Leo placements. And I'm obsessed with the dynamic. Like
that air and fire really plays well with each other.
But it's just like, they're very fun.
Yeah.
It's just very like golden retriever. They're just like, hey.
Right.
I'm obsessed with it.
I'm
obsessed with it.
Yeah.
I don't remember if you told me if you were a trained vocalist or not.
Yes, okay. Yes. Yeah, I got a degree in classical music.
Awesome.
And I've continued studying voice my whole career just because it's sort of like drag to me. Like, I really care about the art form, and I want to be able to communicate through music. And so it's really important for me to, like, continue to be...
And to actively learn and
right.
practice.
Yeah. Like, someone who really inspires me is Pink. Like, I think Pink now is an even better vocalist than she has ever been before.
Absolutely.
And she's, like, older, and, like, she's, like, as opposed to, like, being like, well, I'm getting older, so I'm kind of slowing down. She's like, no, bitch, I am stronger, I am more athletic, I am more entertaining, I'm a better performer. And, like, that's how I want to be. Like, I'm going to be...
Just keep getting better and better and
right,
better.
I'm going to be 30 next year. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want I feel like a lot of us in the queer community are like, oh, we're 30, we're getting old. No, baby, this is going to be the best decade of my life. And then my 40s are going to be the best decade of my life.
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting old at 23. So
hello?
Like, no! I'm so terrified of my own mortality. It's kind of insane. But yeah, I think that's very interesting that you're talking about Pink because she, I was thinking about this the other day. She, I feel like, started with a very not like the other girls mentality,
right.
which is very toxic and not a great mentality to have. And I think a lot of transmasculine people and people that were socialized as women for so long had that mentality at some point because they were like, I'm not like the other girls. Baby, you're not a girl. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like,
baby.
I always think that trajectory is very interesting. But how many times are we going to say trajectory in this like the word of the day?
It's trajectory.
But you know, she started with that not like the other girls mentality,
right.
and people ate it up. They're not like the other girls ate it up.
Right, because it wasn't being criticized as much at the time.
It wasn't. It was still like an okay mentality to have. And like I was listening to Stupid Girls the other day, and I was like, this song fucking slaps. But oh my god,
right. It is a great song.
I am the stupid girl they're talking about.
Right, and thank God we're living in the year of the bimbo, where people are like, I am the stupid girl, and that's to be celebrated.
Absolutely,
I love that.
Absolutely.